So, um, all right. So last week we talked about anxiety. Tonight I want to talk about anger. Okay. Anxiety is rooted in worrying about the future, and anger is a little different. Okay. Um, Anxiety, we defined anxiety as an intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Remember the intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. We understand that's what anxiety is. That we're worried about our bills and our job and our schedules and the whole thing. Okay, our relationships, whatever they are, and it's often accompanied by fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and fatigue. So that we worry about these things, our mind makes them real. We visualize them. Remember, I told you you're already visualizing. This is not a learned skill. You already have it. You have to be aware to visualize something else and what you've been visualizing. But the visualization cues the body and goes into a stress response, and your heart rate increases, your breathing rate increases, your sweating, fatigue. It's real stress. Your body thinks it's a real threat because we don't run from saber-tooth tigers anymore. So we have our bills and our relationships with our boss and all the things that freak us out. Okay, the brain creates symptoms based on these thoughts. Um, and at the basic level, to oversimplify, we create these symptoms through our power of visualization. It's important to know that, to own that, to make it better. Now, it's a little more complicated, we know that, but if we can own this, that it puts us in the driver's seat to making corrections, which is what we're doing. So we talked about how powerful visualization is. Okay. That's what drives our anxiety. We're visualizing all this nonsense of stuff that will probably never happen, not only the way we're visualizing, but it'll probably never ever happen anyway. Okay. If you kept track of all the things that you worry about, you probably forget 90% of what you worry about. If you kept track of all of it, you'd wake up, if you wrote it all down and then you look back a week later, you'd be like, holy crap, 90% of that stuff didn't even happen. And the stuff that did, it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to. And most of the time, not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to. So, and if it is as bad as you thought it was going to be, it probably wasn't like you thought it was going to be. So you wasted your energy anyway because you're not prepared for what really happened. So it's a waste of time. We talked about that. Okay. Um, you're just visualizing things that aren't real. They're not here yet. They don't exist. They only exist in your mind. It's a misuse of your power of visualization. The power we keep going over and over how powerful your visualization skills are. You have you have no idea how powerful you are. You're just misusing it. You can redirect it how you want it to go. Is that right? All right. So anger. Anger is a little different, but it's very similar. So it's defined as a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory. A strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. It it is it is it is what it says. Okay. But why? What truly causes anger? It's probably something that you've never really thought about before. What truly causes anger? Does anybody want to take a stab at that, knowing that I'm setting you up? Um, I wonder why there's a delay from the comments, and you think with modern technology, um, Facebook could do a little better than that. I guess it's not magic; it has to travel somewhere. But you think it would just travel little faster than that. Um, yeah, you're yeah, you're very close, and related. I mean, it's right there in the same ballpark. It's The answer's simple. When something doesn't work out the way we think it should, which is part of control. Very good, Ruby. Most people don't realize that it means that something didn't work out the way you think it should. Now, I didn't say that it shouldn't work out that way. I'm not saying that that something's wrong with you and you had whatever. Okay. I'm just saying at a very basic level, the reason we get angry is because something doesn't work out the way that we think that it should work out. Okay. Very simple. You spill your coffee on your shirt first thing in the morning, you're angry, right? But is it really about the coffee and is it really about the shirt? Uh, or is it I mean, I don't know that it is. I think it's more because you didn't factor that into your day. When you visualize your day, when you thought about your day, you visualize getting up, getting ready, your normal routine, normal amount of time, having your cup of coffee, going to work in a clean shirt, and boom, that's not what happened. And even if you didn't consciously think about that, I can all but guarantee that's the way you visualize it, even subconsciously. You were thinking about getting ready to work, you're getting your clothes ready for work, whatever, and you just assumed it was automatically going to go a certain way. Then it didn't, and you got mad, right? It's very, 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 very simple. Okay, it can be every situation of anger can be boiled down to that simple equation. Things don't work out the way we expect them to, and we get mad. Remember when I said that what messes us up more than anything is the version we have in our head of the way we think things are supposed to be. Okay, we talked about that with anxiety last week. We have these visual, and a few minutes ago, these this visualization of all this bad stuff we think is gonna happen and go wrong, and that's a vision in our head that we. And then this whole anger thing is the way we think things are supposed to be, and then they don't, and then we get mad. Okay, um, one is really post-event pain, and one is pre-event pain. The anger is post-event pain, and the anxiety is pre-event pain. To be honest, and they're predominantly self-induced. Now, again, it's more complicated than that, but at a fundamental level, that's the truth. Okay. Um, but sometimes anxiety turns into anger because we envision something that displeases our idea of the way things should be so much that it does invoke feelings of anger. And I have a relative who's very close to me who's very good at this, and she she's her own worst enemy. And if she has enough time, she will concoct all these weird things, and it turns real. There are things you did to her that she has envisioned that never really happened, and it's very, as I've gotten older, it's been very, very sad to see that happen. So, um, all right, so physical symptoms. The anger causes physical symptoms. It causes emotional reactions, even automatic physical responses. So, I mean, anger, physical signs, clenching your jaws, headache, stomach ache, sweating, nausea, uh, feeling hot, shaking or trembling, dizziness. Um, and emotionally, you can feel like the fight or flight, like you want to run away. You're irritated, aggressive, sad, depressed, anxious. Um, and then it may cause physical reactions like the shaking, the trembling can be so overwhelming. I mean, like almost like you're having some type of a mild seizure. I know that happens to me when I get extremely angry. Some people rub their head, they rock, they clench their fists, they pace, um, become snarky. My wife says sometimes I become snarky. Um, raising your voice. Just we all know what anger is. We know what happens there, and this is the fight or flight response. This is completely natural. It's biological. It was designed for our survival, but we don't live in that world anymore. We just don't. So it it it's health. Anger is a healthy response, but it can be unhealthy. It becomes unhealthy very quickly if one we can't manage it correctly, and two we don't curtail it correctly. So it's become relative, and now instead of in like I said, we don't live in that world anymore of survival, and so uh, instead of you know, 2,000 years ago, instead of another tribe or group of people stealing your food and making you angry because you can't eat, and you and your family or tribe may die in the winter. I mean, that would be a reason to get really aggressively angry, right? Uh, I like to exaggerate to get my point across sometimes. Um, but we don't have to worry about someone coming in and stealing our food from our tribe and starving for the winter anymore. So now we get mad about that someone doesn't use their turn signal or their directional or blinker, or whatever you call it. What what do you call it where you come from? Um, type in, if you would, type in the chat. Tell me what you call it, and where you originally come from that it's called that, because I haven't really pinpointed this, and I'm from the Midwest, and I guess I can't even claim it's a Midwest thing. Where I come from, Indiana, they call it a turn signal. Of course, I do know somebody that called it a blinker from Indiana. Um, and I did meet someone once who called in the Navy. He called it a directional. I'd never heard it called a directional. Um, so I'm curious to see what everybody calls that. Um, anyway, so again, what this all boils down to is our perspective, right? So when you look at at the examples I just gave you, where someone stealing your food and causing your family to suffer and die in the winter is a very good reason to be angry, and aggressively so. And then now we get mad when someone cuts us off in traffic. And so it's really kind of a misuse of the anger, and it becomes, I mean, it comes down to perspective. All right, here we go. Let's check in and see what we got. We got a blinker in California, a directional in Canada, blinker in SoCal. Uh, said it takes a lot to elicit anger in her. It does me now, but it didn't used to. Blinker. So it looks like out west we've got a blinker, turn signal, New York State. Um, it said blinker in Canada. Okay. Says turn signal. And you're in New York, if I remember correctly. Correct. Oh, said New York State. She's drawing the line in that sand there. Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Um, I don't know that we really pinned anything down, but I thought it was neat to see what everybody thought. Okay, so bottom line, I'll quit yapping. It comes down to perspective. One of my favorite books we talked about a couple weeks ago is The Four Agreements. Has anybody checked that book out on my recommendation? I know some people said they had read it before. Has anyone checked it out on my recommendation since? I'm curious. Let me know. Um, I actually need to read it again. I probably bought 15 copies of this book, and I've given it to friends and families. Um, I think kids should read it in high school. It's such an easy read, and it's one of those you're like, how did I not think about this? See the world this way first. But um, and for those of you that don't know, the Four Agreements are, it's a book by a man named Don Miguel Ruiz, and it says she's checked it out. Yes, good, 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 good. Yes, good, 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 good. Um, So, for those of you who don't know, the Four Agreements are, the first one is, it's a book by Don Miguel Ruiz, and he writes out these four. They're called agreements. That we make agreements in our behavior, whether we do it consciously or subconsciously. We've talked about that. Um, and his four agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally. The third one is don't make assumptions, and the fourth one is always do your best. And they are pillars to build your life on. But two and three really stick with what we're doing here tonight. Don't take anything personally. That nothing that others do is because of you. It's all because of who they are and their background, the way they see things, the way they behave, the way they've been taught to behave, their values. Because you could do the same thing literally and to five different people, and they would react five different ways. So it really has not very little to do with you. Um, what others do and say is a projection of themselves, their own reality. And when you're immune to the actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering, which we've talked about that as well. Number three is don't make assumptions. And this is so important because especially like on the internet, I mean, so many things you can't discern tone and intention from text, and people get so wound up. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions. Express what you really want. This is emotional intelligence. This is we need more of this in the world. Communicate, clearly. Have boundaries. Respect boundaries. Don't be passive aggressive. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Um, and two and three, that don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, really, really, really factor into anger, more so than anything we've talked about. Um, the funny thing about anger, the Four Agreements by Don, which is like a respectful title in Mexico. His name's Miguel Ruiz, but he has a title of Don Miguel Ruiz. It's an amazing book, easy read. You could probably knock it out in 1 or 2 days, and it'll transform your life. It really will. I know there's a lot of books that I'll recommend and say it's a really good book, and you could probably get a lot out of it. That one is a filler, in my opinion. So, the funny thing about anger is that, like anxiety, depression, and stress, it can literally destroy our health uh, under chronic conditions. Um, and oftentimes we become so angry at someone that we somehow think our anger hurts them. Um, and it's almost like we enjoy our anger, and that's a really hard concept to grasp. But we're comfortable with familiarity, and sometimes, especially if we've been, and I don't want to get into too much trauma. This helps with trauma, but it's not why I put this together. Um, but sometimes with trauma or neglect, and I think a lot of us share that here due to the circumstances. But um, because of trauma and neglect, that anger uh, helps us feel strong. It's kind of like alcohol to an extent. Um, and so we can wield it like a weapon, and uh, but I don't know if any of you've seen the movie Oh Brother Where Art Thou. It's one of my favorite movies, and the character Pete says in there, he says that don't make no sense. We say that around here all the time, my family. Somebody says something, someone will turn around and pop off with that. um, but it doesn't, to think somehow our anger hurts the people we're angry at. Let's break it down. Okay. In truth, that it's ironic that when we're angry, it often hurts us more than it hurts the person we're angry at. Okay. I've had clients tell me how many times, a lot of times, how angry they were at someone who doesn't care for them like they want them to, or doesn't treat them well, doesn't someone who isn't talking to them. um, I don't know, maybe it's like someone in the office they don't get along with, or a family member, or whatever. um, and I'm like, wait, what? You you choose to stay angry at someone who doesn't care about you. So if they don't care about you, then they probably don't really care that you're angry. So if you're carrying your anger, you're just hurting yourself in an effort to hurt someone else who can't be hurt by it. I mean, there's not a lot of logic there when we walk all the way down through that. It's like trying to fight a shark by dragging it down deeper in the water. The shark doesn't care, but eventually you're going to drown. One of my favorite sayings is it's actually attributed to the Buddha, but that's inaccurate. Um, it's kind of it's a it's an evolved saying from some writings from like the 5th century or something. I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. A little bit. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of harming another person. Okay. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with your hands with the intent of throwing it to harm another person. And when that happens, you may or may not hit them with the hot coal and hurt them, but you're damn sure going to burn your own hands. I'd like you to really think about that for a while. Okay. Anger isn't healthy. It's a healthy it's a natural healthy emotion when it's managed properly. And managed properly means doesn't suppress it either. It doesn't mean get mad and just swallow your anger. It means it has to be processed. It has to be processed in here or through here. You have to talk. You have to talk it out to get the misunderstanding, or you have to talk yourself through it. You have to process it because if you chew on it and let it live, it's unhealthy. Excuse me. And if you suppress it, it's unhealthy. Okay. So we have to be careful with that. Um, like I said, it's normal, a normal initial response in specific situations, but most of the time it's simply initiated by our perspective. Most of the time, anger is simply initiated by our perspective. Okay. And or here's the big one again. We use it as strength for our own passive aggressive behavior in order to defend ourselves. Let me repeat that. We often use anger as strength in our own passive aggressive behavior in order to defend ourselves. Remember when I said a few minutes ago it's kind of like alcohol. You know, when people have a drink, they tend to loosen up and tell you what they think. Okay. And so oftentimes we haven't developed enough strength and or discipline. This is key. This is critical. And this is hard to admit to ourselves, but it's important. Oftentimes we haven't developed enough strength and or discipline to set, maintain, and or enforce healthy boundaries. So we use anger to help do that. And it's like bringing a gun to a knife fight. Okay, now just take a second to think about it a little bit. Okay, has there been a time at work or in your own family or whatever, any situation where you've bitten your tongue, you've allowed people to say or do things that were irritating, that were immoral, were wrong, etc., whatever. And you thought to yourself something like, I'll just keep my mouth shut, that you were hoping they would stop, that they would go away, get the hint. You know, I thought he would get the hint by now. That maybe they would suddenly realize that they were hurting you. I mean, you didn't tell them they were hurting you or they were bothering you, but you're getting angry because they don't know that they're irritating or bothering you, or that they don't have more respect for you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, those are all projections. We're projecting our values and things on them, but we're not communicating. Okay, and they didn't. Then what? Odds are you got angry, and when you got angry, suddenly it's like having that one drink. You had the courage to confront them, tell them how it was going to be, showed them who's boss. That's passive aggressive behavior. Okay, yeah, and Jill, it is used as a reason not to care anymore, and it's an unhealthy way. And that's a great point. And I didn't put that in tonight's thing, but when I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, when someone says, "I don't care what people think," no, that's exactly what you think. You do care what people think, or you wouldn't say it that way. You're angry about it, and there's a huge difference when you truly begin to not care. And I have moved into this phase of my life. When you truly begin to not care, it's like somebody flipped her off, and she just laughed and kept driving. She really didn't care what that person thought about her, and there was no anger behind that at all. Great point. Um, that's awesome. Um, okay, so healthy communication, and this isn't healthy communication here, but I want to tell you, we can all work on better healthy communication, and all of us, all of us. I still work on it constantly. Um, I was raised in a situation where my entire job was to please my mother, and I don't dare say anything to upset her, very carefully. And so I have this issue, this passive aggressive issue. Um, I just handle it differently, and um, so it doesn't typically come out in anger. I'm very slow to anger. I'm very dangerous when I am angry, but I rarely get angry. Totally different topic there, but um, communication is important. Maturity is knowing to let it go in the first place, like Terry did today or whenever it was this week. Um, and if you can't, healthy communication is expressing how you feel with words and not emotions. And anger is a powerful emotion. And that when we can do that, when we can say to people, "Hey, I don't like the way you're doing this. I don't like, you know, I was going to say something stupid like chewing with your mouth open or something. But you also you got to know when not to say something too. Um, but I don't like when you're doing this. I don't like when you're doing that. It's easier said than done, right? I get it. I'm just like you. We're all human. Remember, I told you about my gas pump story while I was evacuating Florida from the Hurricane Irma. I mean, make no mistake, I was angry. It was probably one of the top 5 angriest moments of my life. And I just told you I don't get angry very often, but I'm dangerous when I am angry. I was in strict survival mode. Um, and for those of you that haven't met me personally, I'm a very large man. I'm 6'5" and 265 pounds. And I don't hide my emotions well. When I'm angry, everybody knows I'm angry. And it appears, because of my size, it appears to be more threatening than it really is. But it was a public display. It was ugly. It was ugly. Still a work in progress. Um, but again, I told you the story. It was my perception. I thought we were fighting for survival. I thought we were having gasoline stolen from us. I assumed that we may run out of gas. They may run out of gas. I took it personally that someone pulled in front of us. Um, and you know, perception. Don't take anything personally. I shouldn't take it personally. I should, ask questions. Um, the whole thing. I don't know. I'm a work in progress. Always will be. That's why it's practice, right? See what I did there? Um, all right. So, how we see another person, how they should be acting, how we see ourselves, we're afraid to start a confrontation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but I do want to mention sometimes anger is warranted. Anger is a protective emotion. It serves very specific moments, um, especially in types of emotional, mental, or physical abuse. There's no guilt. Don't add guilt to your anger. That's just adding another. That's You got a 4-letter word to a 4-letter word. You get 16-letter words or something. I don't know. It's exponentially increased. Don't put guilt on top of the anger, for crying out loud. Work through the anger and work to get better and practice it, but don't add guilt on top of it. Um, but it can be healthy. Well, I mean, it can be appropriate, is what I meant to say. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But by the same token, don't use what I just said to trivialize, to justify trivial behavior, trivial anger. That I mean, that can't happen either. And just like I said a minute ago, someone chomping at their gum at the dinner table, that is an abuse. So so don't. Yeah, that's where you have to know when it's worth saying something and when it's not. Don't be like Don Quixote and just run around fighting windmills. I mean, wearing yourself out for nothing. Um, but what I am saying is use your awareness practice to start analyzing your behavior. Okay. Use the four agreements. Don't take anything personally. Use the four agreements to never assume anything. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If somebody gets mad at you for asking questions, it's their problem, right? It's their problem. Okay. Use a serenity prayer to know whether it's important or not. Okay. And use your awareness practice, like I said, to start analyzing your behavior. And we'll start learning to curtail and diminish your anger for your benefit. I mean, it's not going to help anybody else. We think we're giving up power for some reason when we're not angry, and all we're doing is not hurting ourselves. It's for your mental and physical well-being. Okay, it all goes back to perspective. Like I said, change your perspective, change your life. We've already discussed that. It isn't easy. We've already discussed that. It takes time and practice. We discussed that. Okay, so begin, and we talked about this last week. From evolution, it looks like this: we're clueless and we're asleep. We're a fish out of water. We're an angry fish this time. Okay, we have no real control, no real agenda. We're just flopping. Okay, we just spaz out and angrily flop all over the place. Don't be like a fish. We're becoming aware. We talked about this last week. We're becoming aware. Your awareness is increasing. You've already been telling me that. The hard part is being is the hard reality is that being aware doesn't necessarily mean the behavior stops. That's key. This means that we're aware it's happening. And sometimes, like I said last week, the darkness is just before dawn. It's darkest just before dawn. Okay. Knowing you're behaving in a way that isn't beneficial is a rough acknowledgement, but it's healthy. Trust the process, but don't pile guilt on top of it. Just be aware. Okay. When you're aware and committed, good things happen. Okay. Then you'll evolve. You'll be angry and you'll lash out. You'll calm down. You'll be remorseful for saying or doing something that you regret. Um, and when that happens, I'm going to ask you a question here from last week. Right. So if you're angry and you lash out, then you calm down and you're remorseful for saying or doing something you don't regret, what's the next step? You guys are chatty tonight. I'm missing a whole Spitfire conversation. I have to go back and read. Um, Anybody remember what the next step is? After you've angrily reacted, it's a good guess. That comes in next week. We're going to talk about forgiveness next week. Both sides of forgiveness. Have self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Okay, so you're getting better now. I mean, before you would act it out and been angry and maybe not even realize, you may not have had any remorse, you may not, whatever. And now you caught it and you're like, wow, I need to do something different. That's a good thing that that just happened. So be kind to yourself. Celebrate it. Be like, yeah, okay. We have to be good to ourselves. Uh, most of what we've been talking about the last 10 weeks or 9 weeks. It's been 9 weeks. Can you believe that? Most of what we've been talking about the last 9 weeks are all because most of us aren't good to ourselves anyway. So stop it. Be good to yourself. Be calm down. Say to yourself, this is exactly the situation I want to learn from and learn to react differently. That's the manual override I talked about. Say it out loud. Say it in the mirror. I don't care. Be grateful that you recognize it. That's important. Okay. And then use your visualization skills to see exactly how you would handle it differently. Think about it. Act it out in your head. I mean, this is, I mean, I just told you a few minutes ago, don't do that. Now I'm telling you to do that. No, I'm going to have everybody confused, but visualize it. How would you do it differently if it happens again? Practice it. That's a great way to practice. We talked about the basketball players visualizing the free throws. Practice it. Okay. You're literally rewiring your brain to be a different person, to be the person that you want. You're building the person that you want. Okay. And a warning, as your mind creeps in and starts telling you lies, which it will, do what I call the manual override. If you remember what the manual override is, acknowledge, call yourself out. No, nope, that's not true. I don't believe that. I don't act that way. I'm not that way. Whatever you got to say, call it out right then and there. Just boom, call it to the carpet. This is not the way we do things. Okay. Acknowledge that your mind is trying to prevent you from changing your behavior. Ego does not want you to change. It likes things the way they are. It manages it. It's simple part of your brain. It wants it smooth and easy. Wants it the way things always work. Called out, manual override. No, that is not true. I am not this type of person. I'm this type of person. This is the type of person I want to be, and this is the person that I'm going to be. And I don't care. Again, I don't care. Say it out loud. We're worrying about what everybody else. I don't care if you're sitting on the subway or the bus. I don't care. Let them think you're crazy. They probably won't sit next to you anymore anyway. That might be a good thing. Okay. Tell yourself it's what you want to do from now on. Tell yourself that's who you are. That's who you want to be from now on. And I told you last, act like you're explaining it to a 6-year-old. Break it down, man. I don't care. If you don't, I mean, look, you don't think twice about talking bad to yourself, do you? Make some effort and be good to yourself. You're worth it. Okay, it works. I promise you it works. I am living proof. I think I told you my story about condemning myself at the fire department. And I caught myself and said, what? No, why? I said out loud, why? I literally said out loud, why am I talking to myself this way? Okay, it works. And then eventually you will begin to recognize this as it's happening. Your behavior still may not change right away. You still may get anger. And I remember the first time I really caught my anger like this. I was so mad, and it's a long story. But I was trying to. I knew I was angry, and it's the first time I really caught it, but I couldn't hide it. And this person said, "Do you want to come in and talk about it?" And we were talking about it at the door. Said, "Do you want to come in and talk about it?" And I said, "I would rather not." I said, I'm extremely angry, and I would rather stay out here and finish the conversation." That's what I'm talking about. The baby steps, next step. Okay. Then you'll catch it before it happens. Then you'll be able to make decisions before it happens. Then you'll see warning signs and learn to avoid it altogether. It's just a path that takes patience. Okay. It's part of it. All right. So you have this ability. Your mind's the most powerful weapon you have in your war for happiness. I will tell you that over and over and over again. You just have to believe it, and you have to practice it. That's all you have to do. And it may seem like it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. Oh my gosh, it's working. Okay. Yes, it is very, 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 very powerful. Okay. All right. So let's meditate. I've rambled on long enough. Okay. Tonight we are going to redo the meditation from last week that was so rudely and abruptly cut off. Um, I don't know if any of you heard me. I had switched screens, so I didn't have the Facebook Live feedback loop screen page thingy video of me up. I just had my notes up, and I didn't know it went down. I went through the whole thing. I probably talked for another 20 minutes, had no idea the video feed was out, or I would have logged back on and picked up where we left off. So I do apologize for that. So I'm going to leave it up in the corner for me to see tonight in case it happens again. Um, so all right. I saw that comment you made, but I didn't see the other comment. And I'm the type of person, I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll go back and I'll investigate the whole thing and think about it. And I got to lead a meditation, but I will come back and read it later, I promise. Um, so I told you last week we were going to go over some tips and some techniques to help with anxiety and anger. And I apologize. I want to finish the meditation that we were going to do last week because I wanted to do that meditation at least 3 times during our sessions, and I've only done I think one other time um, because it's one of the more important ones that we do. So um, we will have to wait till next week to go over the tips with the anxiety and anger. Okay, but I'll explain more about next week when we finish. All right, so I'd like everyone to get comfortable and back away from the keyboards slowly. Okay. Um, all right. So I won't go through the whole comfortable spiel. You just know that I want you to be comfortable and I want you to have good posture. Um, you can sit, stand, sit in the chair, cross legged, whatever. Just make sure that you're supported and you're comfortable. Okay. I'd like for you to close your eyes. Again, notice your posture and take a deep breath to get started. Blow it out through your nose. You know, I like to start with a big sigh of relief. If you haven't given yourself one today, you're overdue. Please do so now. By the way, I hope you all are giving yourself the gift of the sigh of relief several times throughout the day. You'll be amazed at the effect it'll have on you. Please do so. Continue to take several long, slow, deep breaths. You've been doing this long enough now. You know exactly what your body needs, what your brain and your body need to begin to calm down. Deeply and slowly through your nostrils, and exhale slowly under control through your mouth. I would like you to carefully and mindfully begin to bring your awareness within and focus on your breath. Just take a moment to observe how that feels for you in your body at this moment. And as you inhale, pay particular attention feeling your chest expand and then your belly relax as you exhale. Continue to breathe. Your mind may have the tendency to wander, and that's okay. That's what minds do. If you find your mind wandering, being distracted by thoughts or external sounds, simply acknowledge the thoughts or what you've heard and gently bring your focus right back to your breathing. Let's move our awareness, follow the breath all the way down to the soles of our feet. And let's observe the sensations in our feet. Perhaps wiggle your toes a little bit. Maybe notice sensations of your toes against your socks or your shoes, or the floor beneath you. Or if you're barefoot, maybe you notice the feeling of the freedom, not being restricted by socks or shoes, or maybe the air gently flowing over your skin. And remember, as you encounter these sensations, do not judge, simply observe with curiosity. It's important that we let go of any preconditioned judgments or ideas. And as you continue to inhale and visualize your breath as it's filling your body all the way down to your feet, and also remember as you exhale to visualize the breath leaving the feet, through the legs and the abdomen, leaving the body. And as you repeat this step, be sure to observe any sensations that you may not feel. As you inhale, send your breath to completely fill your legs. And as you repeat this step, be sure to observe any sensations that may be in your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, any other parts of your legs. Continue to visualize breathing in and out of your legs. Often with the legs, you may notice discomfort, pain, or stiffness. Try not to judge these sensations as such. Practice simply observing them. Observe how the sensation may change with the rise and the fall of the breath. Maybe observe how it changes as you do what we call breathing through it. Notice it's not permanent and it may shift or change from moment to moment, in particular with the breath. It's a very important pain management technique to understand the impermanence of pain and to be able to breathe through it. Now, during the next exhale, I want you to visualize your legs dissolving right before your very eyes and all the sensations dissolving with it. And on your next breath, on your next inhale, please visualize the breath as it fills your lower back and your pelvis. And again, observe any sensations in these areas. As you continue to breathe, shift awareness to the other areas of your back. Observe any sensations there you may discover. Don't judge, breathe through them, and let them go. Continue to breathe. Now, as you inhale, visualize the breath traveling down the arms and filling the hands. Notice any sensations along the way. Again, perhaps you may notice clothes as they touch your skin, or the air as it feels with the sensation of air in your skin, or maybe even perhaps the effects of gravity on your arms or your hands in relation to how you have them situated currently. You continue to breathe into your arms and your hands, observing sensations, letting them go. And now, as you exhale, visualize your hands and arms dissolving as the breath leaves them behind, and visualize all the sensations dissolving with them. Just continue to breathe. Now, I'd like you to visualize the breath filling your back, your shoulders, and your neck. These are areas that we are particularly known where we may carry tension. Notice those sensations, breathe through them, and let them go. Now, as you take a deep inhale, visualize the tension remaining in your body, clinging to the breath like dirt clinging to a clean white cloth. And visualize the tension leaving the body attached to the breath as you exhale. Each time you inhale and exhale, visualize more tension and stress leaving from these areas of the body. Just continue to breathe. Now, as you continue to breathe, visualize the oxygen rich, cleansing, and nurturing air filling your lungs, your internal organs, your stomach, your kidneys, your heart. As you exhale, imagine negativity and toxins once again leaving, clinging to the breath. Visualize it exiting the body with the exhale. So, again, as you breathe in, you're visualizing bringing in oxygen rich, cleansing, and nurturing air. And when you exhale, you're visualizing releasing the negativity and toxins. with the breath. Now I want you to continue to breathe, focus on the breath, but I want you to take a moment to be mindful of your heartbeat and notice how that feels for you right now. Just observe and continue to breathe. Now I want you to inhale deeply. Visualize the air filling your entire body completely, bringing that nurturing, rich oxygen to each and every cell of your body. And exhale any remaining toxins and negativity. Just continue to breathe, focusing on the breath, no judgments, just you and your breath filling your body. As we begin to bring this session to a close, take in another full deep breath. But as you're inhaling, I want you to take a moment to appreciate your breath. We've talked about what a very special gift just breathing is, and we take it for granted. As long as we start the day breathing, everything else pales in comparison. Now I want you to take another deep inhale, and let's blow out another big sigh of relief. Remember, you can be as loud as you want. Exhale fully. You may begin to breathe normally and start to bring your attention back to where we are. Wiggle your toes and your fingers. Begin to gently shift your extremities. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. What I like to do with this stretch is with this session, I'd like you to take a big stretch overhead, or my favorite, I'd like you to give yourself a big hug. I don't know when the last time you hugged yourself, said anything nice to yourself. I want you to do that now. Show some gratitude, appreciation, and take a moment to acknowledge how you feel in this moment right now. And this is what it's about. Make a conscious decision to carry this with you, to practice. We always want to be in this blissful, relaxed state. So um, I want to thank you for joining us again. It's been 9 weeks. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about anxiety and anger. I'm going to go through some of the tips and tricks, maybe forgiveness. We'll get into that a little bit. Might overlap. I'll see how I can rearrange things. Um, but I have something I want to share with you. Um, this was scheduled for 10 weeks when we originally put this together. And tonight is week 9. And I don't know how that happened. I can't believe it's 9 weeks already, but it's gone so fast. Um, anyway, next week is week 10. It's the last week. But I am not ready to quit. Okay, love you all, but I got to go. So thanks for joining me. And we'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good night.